Hello, hello. My name is April Malone, and I'm with Yes, I Work From Home, and this is the podcast. Today I have Nicole Eichinger with me. Nicole, did I say it right?
Yes.
Yes. Nicole's a registered dietitian, and she's been working from home for several years now. And looks like you have a little bit of a variety in your past as far as what you've done as a registered dietitian. It looks like you've worked in pediatrics and then a few other things. Nicole, why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself and let us know what you're up to now?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi y'all. I'm Nicole. Like she said, I'm a registered dietitian and I have been one for about 13 years now. Like you said, I started my career actually as a neonatal ICU
Wow.
dietitian where I grew babies for a living. It was so fun. It was my most rewarding job for
Yeah.
sure. Then I ended up having my own babies and working 60-hour weeks was kind of unrealistic.
Hmm.
The only part-time job I could find was in dialysis, and I saw a part of the healthcare system that I didn't appreciate.
Mm.
It was very money driven and kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. In addition to, at that time, after having my kiddos, I had a lot of my own health struggles, and I was not getting the help and guidance I was needing from my doctor. So I kind of just took my health into my own hands and realized that this is something that many other people can do as well. And so I started my own business, Nutrition's My Life, and have been helping women now who are just exhausted and just not feeling like themselves. And I teach them how to get food as medicine into their body, how to trust food again, how to have a better relationship with food, and how to actually repair the body, finding that root cause and get to the bottom of what's going on instead of this just band-aid fix that many people just are are doing, like, oh, let me just do keto, or let me try to cut the calories, or let me just take this medicine. And it just ends up, kind of driving them into a worse place. And so I kind of help them crawl out of their dark time and kind of be empowered again to take back control of their life.
Awesome. This is good stuff. And it sounds as though you specialize working with professional women or just professionals.
It tends to be just women. I do have like 4 or 5 gentlemen, but I have nurses, physical therapists, occupational therapists. I had a couple doctors. I've
Hmm.
had counselors, like psychotherapists. I have lots of teachers, or
Hmm.
lots and
Hmm.
lots of teachers. So
Yeah.
yeah, I tend to get the hardworking. Not that anyone else isn't hardworking, but that's
Right.
just kind of the people that are just a little bit extra stressed. And then I of course have the moms, tons and tons of moms, because
Hmm.
that's a huge trauma to our bodies a lot of
Oh, yeah.
times, is birth. And then we have okay, now I have, this is my life now, taking care of all these kids, and
Mhm.
juggling, like finding my own identity, throughout this like mom stage. And so a lot, I definitely say like a stay-at-home mom is a working mom, right?
Oh,
So,
yeah.
so yeah, I have the gamut
Hmm.
of professionals.
Oh, I hear you. My body definitely took a toll in lots of different ways. And, people talk about their hair falling out and, things that are caused from stress and also, probably just hormonal imbalances and things that happen after you've grown a baby in your body. It's hard stuff. What about, it says here that you have a podcast as well.
Yes, I have. It's the Nutrition's My Life podcast. And that's something I started, gosh, it's been almost about 2 years, maybe.
Hmm.
I don't know, actually. I don't know how long it's been.
How many
um,
episodes do you have?
65 was just recorded yesterday.
Good.
And it's been fantastic. And honestly, since I partnered up with GoSite and then started doing TikToks, that my podcast has just been tripled. Actually, last month it tripled the listeners
Oh,
themselves.
wow.
Yeah, it
Wow.
just like blew up.
Tell me more.
Right? Honestly, it was Go Site got me to a better place for people to find me, and then TikTok. I'm just, for some reason, it's working fantastic. Who knew?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I've heard through the rumor mill that that's the place to be right now. I maybe have an account, but I don't think I've ever tried it yet. So,
Yeah. And I've
um,
only been like maybe a month and a half into TikTok.
okay.
And the last maybe 10 clients of mine have been from TikTok. They'll be
What?
like, yeah, it's like my mom, the crazy part too is how many parents, like 60, 70-year-old parents are like telling their 30, 40-year-old children about me, from TikTok. And I've
What?
gotten a lot of referrals that way as well. So it's just weird that like who I'm reaching.
Who knew? That's so cool. Now, you are seeing clients and you're working from home. Tell us how that works. What does that look like for you?
Well, sometimes it's like what I'm doing right now, sitting on a floor in my son's bedroom because my husband now with COVID is working from home, right?
Right? Yeah, mine
Um,
too.
yeah, so it's a balance. So what I've learned that I need to do is I chunk out time for myself in the morning because anxiety is one of those nasty gremlins that's been with me almost my whole life. And so I have half a thyroid, and so I have to be very careful with my stress levels. And so I take some time for myself in the morning. And then what I end up doing from there is I'll see my clients from anywhere from 7 a.m. because I'm a 5:30 a.m.
Hmm.
waker upper.
Wow. Well, that works for you if you're on the West Coast because then you can still see your clients at a normal
Yeah.
hour on the East Coast.
Yeah, it's been great. So I wake up early, have my time for myself, and then from 7 to 11, I'll see clients. Then my kids are in school 3 hours in person. So
Oh,
depending on if the 7 to 11 schedule in the morning is also a lot of juggling. Okay, checking in on my first grader, checking in on my third grader. They're coming to me with questions. Mom, did I do this right? Or how do you, like, I just got right before I recorded this. Mom, how do I spell 70? And
when you
so,
said
yeah,
they're in person, do you mean that they literally physically go to school or are they doing online school?
both. They're in a hybrid.
Okay.
So they do part online and part in person. So only 3 hours a day in
Hmm.
person.
And then you have to
Um,
shuttle them to school or is there bus
yep.
service for them?
Nope. Nope. That's me.
Yeah.
I take them to school. Then I have like 2.5 hours basically I'll see clients then, or I
Hmm.
will be working on a blog, or I record my podcast, or
Right.
I'm sending emails, or I'm helping, my clients, I give them the opportunity to email me in
Hmm.
between sessions as well.
Hmm.
I don't like to leave people high and dry. I want to
Right.
be there to support them.
That's awesome. Yeah, we have our kids in online school, and it's in and out of meetings all day long. And we have our Echo Dot is
Hmm.
like every 45 minutes is like you have a class in 2 minutes, and or so and so has a class in 5 minutes, and it tries to give them that lead time to get into their classes. But um, I'm telling you, it's a full time job, even just coordinating that. Like, I
Oh yeah.
literally thought that I would have more time during the day, and I had to change my work schedule.
Oh yeah.
So I could
100%.
basically just help my kids while they are supposed to be taking classes with their teachers.
Hmm.
And their teachers are basically being asked to do the impossible and not only manage a classroom full of children, but also the online students. And so there's a lot
Hmm.
of different variations of hybrid. So I always have to ask for clarification. Like, what does hybrid mean for you? It could
Hmm.
be like every other day or 3 days on, 2 days off, or like my teacher or my kids' teachers both at the same time. It's
Yeah, that's crazy.
but it leaves a lot on us. So like my
It does.
kindergartner is only in class for 30 minutes a day. And then she's just like all over the place. She's learning, she's watching the videos that the teachers assigned. We're doing like worksheets, but basically everything falls on me. Like my teacher or her teacher basically takes her for 30 minutes. And that was like when I got my shower today. And
Yeah,
so
exactly. Oh
my
yeah,
hair is
no,
still wet. I put my shirt on backwards. I mean, it's that kind of day. It's still
no,
on backwards.
it's all right. It's all right. It happens. I mean, we ended up having to switch schools
Mm-hmm.
because of COVID because my kids were in a dual language program. So they
Oh.
were. It was actually my son who was in kindergarten last year was 90% Spanish and only 10% English,
Mm-hmm.
and my husband's the Colombian. I'm not. I took a little bit of Spanish in my middle school and high school, but it's not there. So I was just when the pandemic lockdown all really just came in, that's where
Mm-hmm.
it was overwhelming. I was just crying a
Yep.
lot and having like trying to be like, I don't want to be mean mom, but like you have to try to take responsibility for some of your things. You know, I
Hmm.
can't keep track of all of this and my
Right.
business and the house
Yep.
and, you know, my mental
Right.
health.
I
So
know.
we ended up moving to a different town so that way we could have more space. That way the
Mm.
kids could have a backyard because we were in an
Right.
apartment at the time.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, we've done a whole crazy. I even found a desk recently on the side of the curb. I'm like, it's a cool old fashioned like one that has like the I don't know. It's just a really cool old desk. So I'm refinishing that, and I'm going to make my office in the garage. So you know, we're doing what we have to do. You know,
Yeah.
I guess my motto lately is I'm doing the best I can with what I have.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And desks actually have been really hard to find this year because so many people are working from home or doing school from home. Like they've been sold out like
Oh yeah,
everywhere. So if you
yeah.
found one on the side of the road, that's like a miracle.
Oh yeah, no, it was like the old writing desk, you know,
Oh,
with an
fun.
old school, like old fashioned key, and it's just really a cool. I'm like, this is a great find. I looked it up online; it's like $1,600. I'm like,
Are you sure they weren't trying to like sell it?
no, they just were giving it away. I got it for free. It was fantastic.
Wow. We got a Christmas tree off the side of the road, and that's what we're using every month. Our neighborhood has like a bulk trash pickup, and
Uh-huh.
I had gotten our minivan the day before, and we had three kids across the back seat of a Toyota Corolla for several years, and then we finally got the minivan, and like the next day, I drove by and there was a fully decorated Christmas tree on the side of the road. Like with lights on it and bulbs like all over the
No
whole thing.
way.
Like they had just basically taken it out of the living room and set it on the curb. Um, and it was kind of a narrow profile Christmas tree. And I was like, you know what? Our new house is so small. We can't handle the big, huge one that our other neighbors had given us. We don't buy
Mhm.
trees. We just use other people's trees, apparently. And I just opened up my trunk and I just shoved the whole thing in and it was off we go.
Right?
Yeah. Got to
Oh,
treat her
I'm
that way too.
all about you know, those finds and just reusing things and finding ways to make it your own. And that's what this project. I have a bench now in the backyard that I did the same. It was I on Facebook. There's a buy nothing groups. Amazing.
Mm.
You swap things all the time. I get clothes, and it's amazing. You know, like all
I
these
need to
free
find
things
those
are.
groups.
Yeah, and it's for your neighborhood. So there's neighborhood specific.
Nice.
So yeah, buy nothing. It's amazing. I've been
I
using
will
it for
look
2 years now.
look that up.
Um, and so I ended up getting a bench recently. But the cool part is the reason why I mentioned it in this is that I strongly, strongly believe that if you're working from home, we need to have some separation of work and your, you know, home life. And
Mhm.
part of that home life needs to be something stress reduction. And I'm
Mhm.
a big, big fan of projects because they have an end result. So that way you can get that gratification, that self satisfaction, and like that feel good that you were desperately needing right now in this
Mhm.
time of a lot of heaviness. And so those projects for me are part of what's keeping me sane so I can run my business and do everything that I need to do.
Right. And stress reduction is going to look different for everybody.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, it's just something
So,
that lights me up. I love manual labor, and so that's one of those things that I'm hopefully will. I'm looking for a virtual assistant, so that way I can use like have them do some of that busy work for me to open up some of my time, so I can do more
mhm.
stress reduction
Mhm.
stuff to actually help balance my life out a little bit better.
Right. I actually just this week talked with an old coworker from when I was a transcriptionist and I was like, "So, I have been transcribing my own podcast transcripts. And, you know, we talk for 45 minutes, sometimes an hour. The other day, I think my last one was an hour and 10 minutes. And I really, really value having that transcript for not only like the hearing impaired who might want to, you know, just read the transcript, but also for the people who, you know, maybe don't want to watch the video or listen to the audio and just want to skim through and, you know, get the gold from, you know, just reading it quickly. And because I was a transcriptionist, I really care about how it looks. And so I was doing it myself. And I was struggling with, I have some chronic pain issues, some chronic back in, I've had some car accidents in the past. Not my fault, you know what I mean? But like just, we've been T-boned a couple of times and just different things. And so every once in a while, I'll go through like a chronic period where I'm having to go to the chiropractor twice a week and, go to massage therapy, not for fun, but for
Mhm.
like literal therapy because I can't function otherwise. And that gets expensive really fast.
It does.
And the last week and a half or so, I had struggled with headaches and things like that. And I usually am trying to always figure out, is it the caffeine? Like I'm trying to wean myself off of coffee. Is it the sugar that I consumed because it was a holiday or whatever like that? Or did I sleep wrong? Like there's probably 10 different reasons I get headaches and I can't always figure out why. Well, I gave myself a break from typing the transcripts, and I do use a voice recognition software to help me get, 90% of it, and then I spend, a few hours cleaning it all up because it's not perfect. And I didn't do it. I'm a little behind. And I told someone the other day, I'm like, I just feel really good, and I can't even figure out why. And then I said, oh, I haven't been typing those transcripts. And
Took that pressure off
I
yourself.
was a trained transcriptionist and I have an ergonomic setup. And I know a lot of the correct things and, tools and things to make it easier and faster and everything. But it was, a time suck and trying to manage the kids in their school and trying to keep up with this. And then the stress of not being caught up, I think, was catching up with me too. And I talked with a friend and she's going to help me out. She has a job that has some downtime. And well, she's just waiting for things to come in and come through down the pipe, I guess you could say.
Hmm.
And during that time, she has the flexibility of, doing something else. And so she's going to help me out. And I'm like relieved on so many levels because I'm like, not only am I going to probably be able to save the money that I've been spending on my chiropractor just to pay her, but it's also
Yeah.
the time that I was spending on that. So
Well,
I
let me ask
actually,
you this.
go ahead.
How the thing that this is just the anxiety talking in me because what anxiety is a control thing, right? I have been just so scared to like release that control to someone else. Like,
Yeah,
how do you
it's a
do
process.
that?
So I have a virtual assistant that has been with me since June. And it's one of those things, it's like we were talking before we started recording, it's hard to know when is the right time. Like I probably hired my virtual assistant on the early end, like before this business I haven't released any products yet. Like there's not money right now. Like I actually have a bunch of things in the works, but right now this is just a free service, but I'm paying for this virtual assistant and I love him and I don't want to lose him. And he's doing my video editing and helping me with social media and all these things. But the place I hired him through it's called Outsourced Doors. And this lady, Grace Lever, she has started a business in the Philippines. And so it's cool. Davao City doesn't get very many of the natural disasters. Like you'll see like all these typhoons and hurricanes coming through. And they seem to get like the lesser end of the very worst storms. And it's a big university town. And so there's a lot of just really qualified people there. And I hired my assistant through this company and they train them for, I want to say a month, and they make them like learn 150 different tasks and they have them sit all these different exams. And then in the end, if you pass the exams, you can be hired. If not, you're let go. And during that 4 weeks while they're training those people, they're actually taking some time and training us as well. They call us the founders.
Hmm.
And it just means like it's basically teaching us how to pass off a task. And I haven't done it well every time. Like you're supposed to say like, this is what I need it done. This is why I need it done, to give them like the motivation of why it's important. And this is how long I expect it might take you. How long do you think it'll take? And there's just like a little process of how you basically pass off work. And we use Basecamp with the to-do lists and then they actually have like a team leader that gives them some accountability and extra training. And for instance, I got an email last night saying that I could have my virtual assistant trained in LinkedIn,
Hmm.
and they'll send them through like a seminar. And anyway, the control thing is a real thing. And I was just talking with my assistant last night. Actually, I was driving and I had my headset on and was just chatting with him as I was driving and was just saying, gosh, we've really gone through I don't know, the process of me trying to relinquish some things. Like there's some things that I've been very picky about. And when we first did these first couple episodes for my podcast, we were heavily editing, all of the ums and uhs. and or like one of my early episodes, there was a very slight echo. I think the person I was interviewing, the headset might have been like leaking into the microphone from the earpiece to the mouthpiece. And so there's just a little bit of an echo of my voice coming through. And we were working really, really, really hard to clean it up. And then one day I was like, we don't have time for that. And I need to be able to just say, let's not worry so much
Yep.
about those like nitpicky things. Or I was getting, pretty nitpicky, the poor guy. um, and at some point, he's like, hey, I got this, don't worry. I'll put it together and you can just give me the yay or nay. And sometimes I'll just have him even like draft like a social media post. And it's not really his job to do copywriting.
Mm-hmm.
But his English is amazing. And so he can draft it and I'll just be like, I'm going to make a couple of the tweaks. And, or maybe I'll suggest some different hashtags or something like that and just give it the thumbs up and thumbs down and he'll just go ahead and take care of it. So it's definitely a process. And I recommend just coming into it maybe, like maybe they won't do everything exactly the same way that you would. But what really matters is your time more
Mm-hmm.
important than it looking like. I like commas.
Yeah.
And so I usually add in more commas than most people do. When I hired my friend the other day to help out with recording or transcribing the transcript, she was trained by the same company that I was. And so I know that she'll put the commas in the same places that I will. So I think with anything, when you hire someone, it's important to make sure that there's going to be a good personality fit.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, that's one of the things that they had us do in our founders training for this outsourced company that I'm using. They actually had me go through a personality test and like, I'll see if I can find the name of it. It was
Well,
16
I'm totally going to
personalities.
look up this outsourced doers like
Oh,
after we get off of
I
this.
can, I can hook you up. They actually very recently started expanding the company a little bit more rapidly, and they really train them well. Of course, there's going to be like a fit, and
Mhm.
they do a really good like matching thing where they matched me very well. Like they knew that it was important to me that the person that I had on my team is good with video editing and like photography. Those are important things to me. I was a photographer in a past life. And that was going to be something I would need help with as far as like, I like taking the pictures, but I don't like editing them
Mhm.
or the social media stuff. Like, and then also just the English. Because I teach English, that's something that is important to me and it's helpful. The guy that I have on my team, his English is really good. So, and that's not always the case, but some people
Mhm.
have different skills. And like I said, that's not their job to do the copywriting. So, but he has been able to help me with some of like the basic editing or even making suggestions. And sometimes I'm like, thank you. That was a great suggestion. Sometimes I'll be like, thanks, but no thanks. I'm going to go with my original
Yeah.
plan. So I think it's just a balance of finding like that fit.
Yeah.
And my assistant's going to listen to this entire podcast episode. He's going to hear me talking about him. But I love it. I mean, it's really nice to have some things that you can pass off. Sometimes I will be working alongside him and getting stuff done. Sometimes we'll do a Zoom every day and like work through some things and like I'll be even watching his screen as he's doing some things and I'll be like yes or no, like when we were designing like the logo and things.
Mhm.
And then there'll be weeks that I won't talk to him at all for like 2 weeks, and
Yeah.
he'll just have like a checklist of things like we talked about last night when we do these episodes. I had a checklist of about 7 things that we usually do as far as like the video and the transcript, and then also like uploading it into the RSS feed for the podcast and also the YouTube, and then getting the transcript into YouTube to be like my subtitles. And then, there's the social media art, and then there's the social media posts.
Mhm.
So so we added about 5 more items to each episode that, steps to do. And then it would be like emailing the person who, this is something that we fell behind in. When I record an episode with you, once we publish it, I should be sending you an email to say, hey, here's your link to the episode. And we just fell behind in that along with the transcripts. And now that we're not spending as much time on the actual video editing, we will have more time to catch
Mhm.
up on like, here's the link and here's the art that we're using. You can share it as well if you want with your people. So I guess it's just a matter of kind of maybe give yourself a month or two to kind of fall into that rhythm with
Yeah.
your hire. to get to know each other. Actually, the company, the outsourced doers company, they shared my personality results with my assistant so that he would have a little bit of an idea of what he's working with.
That's smart.
Um, and it is a relationship. And like this company that I use, I think you pay up front like a couple months,
Mm-hmm.
and then after that it's no contract. So like you can just go month by month. And if it's not a good fit, they'll swap one out for you. If you need
That's
to,
awesome.
if you just say that's not going to work out, for whatever reason, I need a different skill set, maybe, um, they could bring someone else in. But, you lose some time. Like it took a month or two for us to establish our rapport
Mm-hmm.
and kind of get something started.
That's
And I,
true.
I would hate to lose that relationship that, we've built. So hanging on.
No, yeah.
I'm like,
No, when you're saying some of these things, I'm like, dude, when I record my podcast, there's no editing at all. I
uh-huh,
do not edit. Like randomly, there's been a couple when I'm like, the kids jump in or say
uh-huh,
something,
yeah,
and I'm like, but for me, what I've found is that it's better just to have it out there than be perfect,
right.
with it. And so that's one of the things that I've found actually that a lot of people like, they'll tell me like, oh, I found you on your podcast and I love it. And I'm like, that's awesome because I just record it and I have
Hmm.
an intro clip and I just meld them together and
Yep.
then boom, that's it. And so you're
Hmm.
giving me all these ideas. I'm like, oh, I should probably transcribe for people that are hearing impaired. I didn't think about that,
But it's a
So,
time commitment and it's a money
mhm.
commitment because you can pay someone like at Rev, but it's like $1 or $1.25 a minute per audio thing. I use Otter, Otter.ai, and I can put the links into the show notes. So we're talking about all these things. Might as well put the links into, but um, it gets some of the work done, but it doesn't get all of that work done. And it's a commitment. So it just
Mhm.
depends on, will you or your assistant have that time to add that extra feature. It is a feature. We are definitely bringing the editing down a notch.
Mhm.
As far as, well, one thing that I learned is that I say, right, so, and anyway, and all these different things so much. And having to transcribe my very own podcast definitely helped me become a little bit more aware of some of my patterns. Also, how I interrupt people or how much I nod my head and say, right, while they're talking. It helped
As
me.
I'm nodding my head right now, I'm going, yeah,
I watch
yeah.
myself on like super speed sometimes, like 2x, just to listen really quick and make sure that the transcript is accurate or something like that. And I can see myself like on the video, like nodding like I'm a little bird, bobbing my head. Um, but yeah, I think that just being authentic and natural sounding is more important than it being polished. If I
Mhm.
was going to do like my 3 minute intro, I might worry more about sounding, great, or I might spend 2 days editing a 3 minute clip if it was really, really important. But if it's going to be an hour long podcast, there's just not enough time. I can't hire a team of
Oh,
eight
no.
people, to do every single aspect of my business right now. So
Yep.
let's talk about stress and how it affects inflammation and how inflammation can be helped out by food.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, when it comes to stress, you're right. Stress definitely is a precursor for inflammation. And so that's why I was saying, like, having projects, doing some things. So, one of the things that like I mentioned earlier, is having a morning routine, because if I don't have that morning routine, my stress level is extremely high. And this is something the more I, listen to like Tony Robbins or anyone else who is, great in their business, that's what they do as well. And I'm like, all right. And everyone's going to have a different morning routine for sure, depending on what lights them up and what they're needing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one of those things that I strongly believe that if you don't have a morning routine, and especially if we can get it outside, that's going to be the best thing, because just 20 minutes a day of direct sunlight into your eyes, and if you can do it the first thing in the morning, can actually help reduce anxiety a little bit longer if you have depression.
Mm-hmm.
And so that direct sunlight is crucial. And what it'll do also is it sets you up for 16 hours later for your melatonin to be released to help you sleep better at night. And so if we sleep better and we have better restorative sleep, we have less inflammation enough and less stress the next day. So it's all definitely got like intertwined and interconnected,
Mm-hmm.
because like you've said, like that stress, it's just and the thing about stress is that there's three different kinds of stress. There's emotional stress, there's physical stress, and then there's chemical stress. So we can't
Oh.
forget about, most people are aware of the emotional and the physical stress,
Mm-hmm.
but the chemical stress is something that many people are just, um, like we look, I've seen a lot of, like, my clients are a lot of professionals, like we said, and they're looking for, can I try something that's low fat, low calorie, right? And when we eat all these processed foods, that's a chemical stress to our body. And
So the Splenda and the fat replacements and the sugar replacements.
yes, even just preservatives in general.
Mm-hmm.
Our cereals we have to be aware of. There's something in it called THBQ, or and that's something that's very carcinogenic. And so there's little things like that. Just being aware, because part of what happens with us when we're stressed is that our cortisol level can be affected. And some people end up having like a flatline cortisol where they're actually so low. Sometimes it's a excessive. It usually goes extremely high, and then you kind of burn it all out, and then you like go low. And a lot of people that have if you have a cortisol issue, typically is because we carry our fat in the abdominal. It's called visceral fat. So that's usually a cortisol stress issue. Also, I see it frequently when you wake up around 3 or 4 in the morning. That's typically the cortisol, like, oh my gosh, I used up everything all throughout the day. I need to like pump these more because cortisol is what naturally wakes us up in the morning.
Okay.
We have a natural rise, but sometimes our bodies are a little bit too ahead of the game because we burnt through everything the day
Mm-hmm.
before. So we get up, that 3 or 4. And then I also see the 2 to 4 p.m. crash
Mm-hmm.
when that cortisol is all used up.
Now
That's the workday.
you're speaking to someone who has worked nights for 12 years.
Yes.
And so my circadian rhythm and everything is really jacked up,
Hmm.
to put it mildly, just because, I've really messed around. Like, it's almost like I have jet lag. I think I was talking to someone last night. I feel like I have jet lag almost like every day or every week
Hmm.
because of, my switches. And so you're
Hmm.
talking about nutrition, but you're also talking a lot about sleep.
Yes, yes, yeah. Sleep and just in general, like when it comes to nutrition, our bodies, I want you to think about like our body like a car, right? And so if we're driving 70 miles down the highway and we're trying to do a repair on the car, we're going to get burned, we're going to crash. It's just not going to work. And so
Mm,
there's so many factors that come into the actually our health. And so part of what we need to do as far as our nutrition goes, if we don't calm that car down, slow it down, cool it off, you're just going to have expensive poop. That food that you're eating is just going to go right through you,
right?
because what happens physiologically when we're stressed, our cortisol our blood, excuse me, our blood gets shunted from our intestines and that goes to our muscles, because we're supposed to be a fight or flight, right? We're going to go fight that bear that's in front of us, or we're going to run away from it. And so that blood flow, if we're staying in a high state of stress, that blood flow is not in your digestive tract to actually help digest your food properly. And then a lot of people end up getting lots of bad bacteria taking over versus the beneficial bacteria. And it just kind of has this, it's called dysbiosis. And that's the first step before that leaky gut and all this other, issues that kind of arise. So
Right.
can't talk nutrition without talking about this mindset, your sleep, and everything, because it's all interconnected.
Right. And I think that I've probably gone through the whole gamut with some of these different issues. Maybe didn't always put a name on everything, but I
Hmm.
definitely find that I do better when I um, reduce the inflammation by
For sure.
controlling my food, taking down actually coffee. I'm currently drinking 1/3 of a cup of coffee. I was up to about 2 cups a day, 2 like mugs, like probably more like 4 or 5 cups. I'm literally measuring out my coffee because I know that my anxiety like kind of peeks its ugly head out, when I'm drinking too much caffeine.
Hmm.
The first time that I ever had energy drink, it was either a Monster or a Red Bull. I don't know which one I tried. The next day I thought I had a UTI and I felt, very jittery, but I also felt really sick and like had all of those symptoms of like maybe what I would have if I had a UTI. I went in, they're like, no, you don't have a UTI. And I realized it probably was that freaking energy drink I had.
Yeah.
And so it affects me in multiple, bad ways. And
Hmm.
I've learned that my relationship with caffeine definitely is a big one. So my chiropractor the other day, he's like, sometimes I notice that your adjustments aren't sticking. And sometimes I think that people that struggle with this might have like an adrenal imbalance or adrenal chronic something, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you really need to cool it on that caffeine. And I'm like, I'm trying. I'm way down, you know. He's like, you might need to cut it out completely. And do you want to speak to that at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually went through a few years ago where I cut out caffeine for 3 months completely.
Mm-hmm.
That was no chocolate, no tea, no
Yep.
nothing, actually no coffee. And then what I found is I replaced it with a turmeric latte. So now what I like to do is, I add maybe 2 to 3 ounces of coffee. Like I'd mentioned earlier, my husband's
Mm-hmm.
Colombian.
Oh yeah,
He
yeah.
is a coffee like guru, like
Yep.
they love their coffee.
Yep.
And so that's something that I like when he makes it. I'm like, oh, I love the smell of it. But I also realize, my knee is my inflammation indicator. I had tore 4 ligaments when I was in high school, and I'm bone on bone. I have
Wow.
osteoarthritis in it. So if I don't drink my turmeric latte, my knee is like, okay, you have some inflammation going on. So I add
Wow.
my
So it's like
turmeric.
your little canary.
It is. It is. It is definitely the canary in the mind. And I end up using turmeric. I use cinnamon. And with turmeric, you need some fat and some pepper to help of the absorption.
Okay.
Um, and then cinnamon, ginger, and then I use some medicinal mushrooms that have been shown for actually they block the inflammation pathway. So it's something called beta glucagon that are in those mushrooms that actually block the inflammatory pathways. And so I add those in, and
Is it like a powder?
it's a powder. Yeah. They also have them in capsules too, but I
Okay.
I don't like pill burden. I take a
Okay.
lot of supplements.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can get something in food form,
Mm-hmm.
I will totally do that first.
I don't like mushrooms, but
Oh, you don't taste
maybe
it.
yeah, I
You
was
don't
gonna
taste
say if it's like a powder or a capsule, then that probably wouldn't be a big deal.
And it's only a fourth a teaspoon. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
minute, small amount. And it's just, yeah. And I have tons of clients too. Like, I don't like mushrooms. I don't like mushrooms. Like, you're not going to taste this. It's not a mushroom flavor. It's just a
Right.
powder. And it's such a small amount that it's not that big of a deal. But if we have all this caffeine, like you said, you definitely are going to kind of shoot out those adrenals where they're just going to be working too hard. Not to mention also your digestive tract. So if we're more stressed, a lot of us get the ooeyes. Like we just
Mm-hmm.
have that like, oh my gosh, I get nervous. I have to go to the bathroom, right? And so that can actually disrupt your healthy gut flora because we have an ecosystem in our digestive tract, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to feed those healthy bacteria because we should have, as an adults, about 3 to 5 pounds of beneficial bacteria. So if we're
Wow.
not feeding them and keeping that environment proper, then our gut wall starts to suffer. And a lot of processes, hormonal imbalances can start to happen because we do a lot of our hormone cleaving and attachment within the gut wall lining. And so if we have damage to that because of stress or because of the caffeine, overuse causing, to have diarrhea or just wipe everything out, right? We can definitely be setting us up for inflammation and also
Mm-hmm.
more anxiety because we are in more stress because
Yep.
we have a nerve that actually attaches from the gut to our brain. We have a brain gut axis. And so our gut hears what our mind is thinking.
Oh wow.
And it's just crazy that if we're constantly worried about this or too stressed out, we're going to have, like you said, more inflammation, more pain, more, you have, chances of having mood swings, anxiety, the weight gain, autoimmune disorders, and also all these, cancer. I can just keep going on and on
Mm-hmm.
and on.
Well, let
So
me confess, when I feel cruddy, like when my body doesn't feel great, guess what I do? I
what's
eat
up?
crappy food. I
Yeah,
eat the junk. I go to the cheap chocolate even, and I'm sure it's just a cycle because then it's
that's
just
an emotional,
compounding.
right?
Mhm.
That's the emotional stress. So if you start to notice like, oh, I'm going to that's an emotional, like I need to figure out what's going on. And I'm a huge fan of chocolate. I think all foods fit into a healthy lifestyle.
Mhm.
The cool part is that once you start to introduce, and it's like a step, I tackle the mindset at the same time as I tackle the gut. Those are usually the first two things that we focus on. And then once you start to increase these foods and, I have like my client on Monday, she was like, I crave vegetables now. I don't crave she's like, I was eating ice cream so much. I crave vegetables now. And this is
Wow.
just like, and yeah, so she went on a trip this weekend. She came back and she was like, I didn't feel like shit. She didn't feel horrible from
Mm-hmm.
from this trip, and she normally would have. And just
Mm-hmm.
because I had these tools in place, she's like, I still wasn't 100% like I was at home, so I still feel off, but I could still fit my rings on her. It was her first
Right.
after 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, my rings fit my fingers again. My rings fit my fingers again. Right, just
Wow.
2 weeks of working with me, and those little things are just make a big difference to someone who's not feeling that well. So
Mm-hmm.
it really does. Once your gut it goes from that bad bacteria to that healthy bacteria, and we kind of flop those around, you don't have those cravings as often as you
Right.
do with the bad bacteria.
You can kind of change your taste buds. I know, like
Correct.
when I've done, I said Wyke, when I've done like a detox, and got off the caffeine, like you said, for 3 months, I might have even been off of it longer, and I was working night shift. And it
Good.
doesn't seem like you normally can go off of caffeine when you work nights, but actually it helped regulate my energy level quite
Mm-hmm.
a bit. And it was good. I didn't have the super highs and lows of that fatigue and then the jittery, and then I just felt more even.
Mm-hmm.
And then you bring down the sugar, and I think I went off of sugar for several months too. I lost 50 pounds that year.
Wow.
I gained it all back. This is a few
Mm-hmm.
years ago, but and
And I'm guessing that you were very restrictive with what you were doing back then, right?
I it was I didn't really love the diet that I was doing, but I did like how I felt.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of a trade-off. Sometimes you trade the satisfaction of eating the foods that, are delicious versus just feeling great.
Well, that
And
I'm going to stop you right there because it doesn't have to be that way. And
right.
that's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing that so many of us are just like, not say brainwashed, but we almost are like, right? Like you have to cut calories. You have to do a detox. You
Mhm.
have to try this diet. This is the only one to work. In reality, most of what we're doing is we're taking foods away. We're eliminating
Right.
an entire food group, or we're doing all of
Hmm.
this. What I found is if we start to focus on adding in foods, I like to say
Hmm.
like crowd out the bad with the good.
I
Keep
like it.
doing what you're doing and just enhance it.
Right.
Find ways to add in, color into your meals. And then
Hmm.
eventually you'll crowd out that bad stuff and you don't want to have it. So you're just slowly weaning out the bad. And you still have, I like to follow like an 90% rule, like 80-20.
Hmm.
80% of the time you're doing, good with your food, but then 20% of the time you need soul food.
Right.
Food that like hits home, that like, reminds you of like mom or,
Hmm.
something, whatever it is that you have to have that wiggle room and that balance of all of that. And I'm not saying a cheat day. I'm saying
Yeah.
incorporate that into your normal day. Like if you ate pizza one night, okay, next day we're just gonna eat, the way that makes you feel better. And if you want to
Right.
have tacos, we can make it in a way where it's going to be healthy and helpful for you. So
I've learned a few things along the way. I had a coach for a little while who she was helping me just be a little bit more aware. Like when I
mhm,
ate that ice cream, oh, the next morning you have a headache.
yeah,
Or you felt really stiff. What did you eat last night that might have affected how you felt the next day? And I
correct.
had never made those correlations. And so now, like when I'm thinking, should I have a glass of wine? I have to think, do I want to feel like crud in the morning? Is it going to be worth it? And sometimes it is worth it. Sometimes it's not. Another thing is like your client said, I've discovered that some vegetables can taste delicious
Hmm.
when, like for instance, roasted. If when I was on my sugar fast for a few months, roasted Brussels sprouts, and I never thought that Brussels sprouts, like as a kid, like they just sounded like the most disgusting thing. And I'm telling people, I'm like, they can taste like candy if you roast them, and they kind of start to caramelize a little bit. Oh
Hmm.
my goodness, it's like popping, candy into my
So
mouth. It's
good.
amazing. With some roasted, my mother-in-law makes a really good. It's just, I think it's carrots and um, some like maybe baby potato. It's a little mix of some vegetables but the Brussels sprouts are like the candy in there.
Yeah.
It's so good. So yeah, it's like all of a sudden your taste buds can change over
Hmm.
time, and I like that.
It is. It's so cool. It is so cool. I love
But
food.
there's definitely like the sugar withdrawal. I think it takes a little time to like retrain yourself again. Uh, Nicole, if someone wanted to work with you, what would they find? What kind of services do you offer?
That's great. Yeah, I actually have a couple self-paced courses.
Mm-hmm.
One of them actually currently is on a flash sale till Friday, so only a couple more days till the 20th. But I have a healthy thyroid program, and then I have a mind your gut program, and they're 4 weeks each, and it's all like it's everything that you need to know to heal and improve your thyroid or your gut health. And I walk you step by step, just like I would if you were a one-on-one client with me. And I do it a little bit different with my one-on-one clients. So I have like a 1 hour session. I have 1 month packages, 2 month packages. And I typically recommend mostly, especially if you have like multiple health issues or you feel like you're a little bit more complex, a month is really ideal.
Mm-hmm.
And what we do is we have an hour initial session. And on that session, I say, like, from the time you wake up in the morning, from the time you go to sleep, let's go through your day. Let's go through your pooping, your habits, your, sleep routine, every little thing. And we kind of go through and just kind of see the big picture of what's really going on. And then after that hour, I send a nutrition recap email, which is like my brain dump. And it's basically like your healthiest day. Like if in a perfect world, this is what you would be doing. And I break it into that morning routine, the day routine, and then the evening routine. And then I even break it down even further with food. And then I break it down into habits within those sections.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of the email, I say for thyroid, because that's what I specialize in, thyroid and gut health. If these are the foods and these are the tools, supplements that are helpful for thyroid. So that way you can see how all of these things that are helpful can be spread throughout your day and it not be overwhelming. I'll provide meal plans, sometimes, anti-anxiety guides, whatever it is that they're needing. I've made tons of handouts and tons of things over the years to really help my clients. And then, like I kind of mentioned before, I don't like to leave them high and dry because I'm a health warrior myself. And I remember how lost and confused I felt when I started off my journey. And so I provide them, with a 30-minute follow-up the following week so we can tweak things and really kind of hone in what worked for you, what didn't. Let's talk about a few things. And then I give them like a week of implementation, kind of like spread their wings. Let's see how you do on your own, but you can still
Mm-hmm.
email me in between. You can still contact me so that way we can make sure that you're getting the guidance that you're needing. And then on week 4, we make sure that, okay, how are you feeling with this? Some people need to go another month. Some people are like, I got this. Like, you set me up for like success and I know my routes to go from here on out. And so it's just really, like I said, I customized everything for them because we're all different.
Yeah. So it sounds like a very holistic approach,
Correct.
not
Correct.
just food and supplements or something like
No.
that.
Yes. Yes.
Do you incorporate supplements as part of your routine? Do people have to buy a certain like package or
No.
program to do that
No,
with you?
no, I have some supplements that I am associated with, but it doesn't mean that everyone needs those supplements, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
like I said, I customize everything based on what they're needing. So I just send recommendations like, hey, I've used this one before with a couple clients. You might like this. And they're just little things could make a difference. So one supplement can have 5 different things on it, but then the other supplement only has 4 out of those 5, and they're almost the same, but I wouldn't give them to the same person, right? So they're
Okay.
just, you have to be really careful. So I am also trained in medical nutritional therapy, meaning that I can interpret labs and read them and base my guidance on that. So
Mm-hmm.
I do sometimes also talk with there's a lot of dietitians and health professionals that are like, I have this at home thing that you can buy this package and do all these labs with me, but I'm like, I'm not that dietitian. Let me talk with your doctor and let's order these labs because this is a team approach.
Okay.
we all need to be included into this. So I communicate with physicians and everyone to make sure that where everyone's on the same page and they understand. Sometimes I send them my notes depending on what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
There's someone recently, there was a self-harm comment. And so that was sent to someone else, so I just make sure that I have the person's best interest at heart, no matter what's going on. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to, I hate it when people try to gouge me. So I'm not that person.
Can you just, for everyone, for me too, can you
Mhm.
kind of tell me what the difference is between a nutritionist versus a dietitian versus a registered dietitian?
Correct. Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
two or
So
three different levels there?
yeah, a dietitian and registered dietitian are almost the same. The dietitian has been gone through and at least had a bachelor's of in a degree in nutritional science or food and science or whatever they want to title it per college.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then the difference between a dietitian and a registered dietitian is I had to also go through a internship. It was a year-long internship. I had to pass a national registration exam,
Mm.
and then I also have to keep up yearly. Well, every 5 years, and it's also within yearly and all this continuing education.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of my background in training. A nutritionist, however, can be someone who takes an online course. A nutritionist can be that person who has a bachelor's degree, but has never practiced.
Mm-hmm.
So nutritionist can actually mean anything.
Okay, got
And
it.
so it's very like some health coaches will call themselves a nutritionist. And I have had a good handful of clients come to me from those just with them not knowing what they're doing. And they just really screwed them up. I'm like, ooh, that shouldn't have happened. Ooh, this is a medicine, like drug interaction. Like you shouldn't have taken this, like all these little things that if you're not trained on it, you can actually do a lot of harm
Okay,
in someone, than good. So yeah,
right.
it's definitely um, it's a murky waters basically that we're walking in with, a lot of this online space, I guess I should say, in the nutrition world.
Right. And then working from home, we have access to our kitchen, which can be good or it can be bad.
Yes.
Do you work with many
Yeah.
people who work from home, or are
Oh
they
yeah.
usually kind of a mix?
Yeah, it's definitely a mix, especially right now with with this
Mm.
pandemic. It's some since I do see a lot of health professionals as my clients. They're still working in the hospitals. A lot of them
Mm-hmm.
are, or in their clinics. There are still a handful though that are at home and working. So it just depends. There's a challenge either way. A lot of them are skipping meals when they're not working,
Yep.
from home, or even the ones working from home. They tend to be like, "Ooh, I forgot to eat.
Oh
Ooh,
yeah.
I forgot
Oh
to
yeah.
eat."
Absolutely. You can be so focused sometimes, or so distracted.
Hmm.
Either way, it can make you forget to eat sometimes.
Yes, or like with us, we're teachers, we're business women, we're taking care of the house, we're doing all of these things, and so the time just kind of comes where you're like, "Oh no, I haven't done anything. I haven't eaten like
Mm-hmm.
that." So yeah, that's no matter if you're at home or working away, preparing, have an idea. Like you said, like the roasted like Brussels sprouts, like I am a big, huge, huge fan of put everything on a sheet pan
Mm-hmm.
and put it in the oven.
Yep. Yep.
Put it
That's
in
what
the
we do.
oven,
Yep.
walk away, get what done you need to get done and come back to it. I don't
Right.
like the standing over the stove, taking all this time. Like I enjoy that when I have time, but most days I don't have time for that.
My husband is the one who really enjoys the process of cooking. I
Hmm.
enjoy the process of eating. And so when I cook, it's usually more functional, or I'll do
Hmm.
things in bigger batches. And so we
Yeah,
can like freeze some, which just means that another day I don't have to cook, but it's still a
correct.
wholesome meal.
Correct.
He enjoys, like, he's more likely to be tinkering in the
Hmm.
kitchen and trying new recipes. And as a family, we like to watch Alton Brown. It's funny because we actually just purchased another season of he's got his Good Eats Reloaded, and even our 5-year-old enjoys watching these cooking shows. And obviously, sometimes they have healthy food and sometimes not so much. But I just like it that my children are learning about being in the kitchen, and that it can be fun and it can be,
Yes.
educational, and they're learning math and science and chemistry and
Oh, yeah.
everything. And so,
Oh yeah, my kids are excelling in math, and I definitely attribute that to being in the kitchen since they were, able to
mhm,
hold a spoon. And
fractions.
also, as far as like, you don't want to have like us have our own health journeys, and then our kids are such picky eaters, right? So
Yeah.
getting them in the kitchen, and that's something I come across a lot of times too, is that battle,
Mhm.
that dinner time battle,
We have
and
that.
or cooking multiple meals, right? And I'm like,
Yep.
don't cook multiple meals, so that's something as so helpful as just getting them in the kitchen, letting them get used to food. It's
Mhm.
sometimes it's scary because they don't know what it looks like, right? Exposure, exposure, exposure.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a child who's especially picky and has been vegetarian since she was about 6, and we're not.
Hmm.
So you're talking about the multiple meals. It's hard sometimes. Like when you have a kid, um, she's always had a difficult time eating, even when as an infant, like as a newborn. Like there's just always been something going on with that, a lip tie versus aversions versus
Hmm.
upset, and she probably has. They say that she's one step away from celiac. And so we've had to do some major household, diet changes as far as
Hmm.
like, what we have access to and what we don't have access to, just to make that whole journey a little easier. But oh my goodness, like the whole, separate meals thing is a thing. Um, and I think it has to do with personalities and parenting styles, and
Hmm.
every family dynamic, sorry, is going to be a little bit different. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. So if people want to find you, where would they find you?
Nutritionsmylife.com. I hang out a lot on TikTok lately. I've
Yeah.
been loving TikTok. That's been fun. So I'm actually Nicole Dietitian there.
Okay.
I am Nutrition's My Life on Instagram, Nutrition's My Life on Facebook. So you can kind of find me all over the place. I'm trying to keep up with Pinterest. And now I see that you're doing all your transcription and putting it into YouTube. I'm like,
You want to add something else to
did I
your
be doing
plate?
that too?
You don't have to have it all, but
No, no,
I
but it
mean,
does help.
I'm not really present right now on a lot of the places you just mentioned. I'd like to,
Mhm.
work my way into that, but you have to know your limits too.
Yeah. Well, I have my Facebook group that I mainly nurture, and that's
Hmm.
it. It's the healthy habits and no, healthy foods and healing habits. And that one has just been fun because I like to just do like free like challenges in there, or I'll
Hmm.
just come in and do like a good 20-minute education, training. And it's just a good like little hub where people can just, have a comfort and know this is nutrition and, lifestyle like guidance. But Instagram used to be my favorite until TikTok came over, and I'm like, oh, TikTok's so fun.
The new shiny object. Is your Facebook group available just to your clients, or is it an open group for
Everyone. Yeah.
anyone, a free group?
Anyone. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, if you have anything you want to share to kind of wrap things up, I usually ask this. If there's something that you think that might be especially helpful for someone who's new to
Hmm.
working from home or got thrust into it unexpectedly, from your standpoint, as far as nutrition and work, we might have to have a part 2 of this because I have so many more questions I just want to fire at you right now. But just to kind of wrap things up, what would you say would be like your number one for people who work from home and are trying to juggle the work life, food, wellness, wholeness picture? What would you do? I really messed that up. How would
No,
you?
I get what you're asking
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, because there's so many things, right? I could say something like the tool, like I said about Go Site, thing's been huge. I could say the morning routine, that's huge. But if we're talking specifically just food to help out, honestly, is like you said, make too much. I make too much is always having some sort of an easy go-to something. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll a lot of times just do like a boiled pot of rice or quinoa or some sort of
Yeah.
grain. And then I'll roast all my veggies and or a protein. If I'm having a protein, a lot of times we'll just do beans, and I'll just make like a Pinterest calls them Buddha bowls. I call them, veggie bowls or rice bowls, whatever you want to call them, quinoa bowls.
Mm-hmm.
But I just toss things on, add an avocado, drizzle a little bit of something, cilantro, done, eat it,
Yeah.
out the door. So just having those go-to recipes that that are easy, that are going to fill you up, and then also last. It'll
Right.
last.
Yeah. I definitely find that I make the best choices if I already have something ready to go that I know is a healthy choice.
Hmm.
And when I don't have something ready to go, that's when I'm most likely to eyeball the convenience food or be
Hmm.
tempted to order a pizza or something like that.
Or just, yeah, I hear a lot of people just like, or I'll just like skip, I don't know what to
Yeah,
eat.
that
So I'll
too.
just skip and I'll just keep going, or I'll have,
Hmm.
a soda or something and just go. And I'm like, all right, feed something. And that's, if that's you, y'all, that's another tip. Grab a handful of nuts, grab
Hmm.
some berries or a banana or an apple, pair those nuts are going to be stress reducing. That
Hmm.
fruit is going to give you a little bit of fuel, and just at least do that versus skipping a meal.
Right.
If you're not going to eat a full meal, at least feed your body a little bit of something. So that way, you don't put gas in the car, you don't go. So I don't want you to burn out by the end of the day or by the end of the week and not be able to focus on your business.
Like I said, I feel like I could probably just go another hour with you. And
I
I
know
think
that's
that we're
fun.
going to have to continue this conversation. Now, for those of us, for those of our listeners who might be watching the YouTube, I can't actually see Nicole right now. I'm not sure if the video feed will come through. For some reason, we had a little bit of a glitch, but she can see herself. So I'm not sure if we'll have video. But Nicole, I enjoyed watching your little intro video on your website. And again, what was your website one more time?
Yes, it's nutritionsmylife.com.
And that's a really great way to access everything I think that you do.
Correct.
Find your sessions and your freebies and things like that.
Yes.
So
My podcast, my blog, everything's on there.
it's all hosted there. So well,
Yep.
thank you so much. I think we're gonna have to just
Yep.
resume this conversation in the near future. Thank you so much, Nicole, for coming. This is April Malone with Yes, I Work From Home, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.